For my second October in Disguise photo shoot, I started with one concept in mind, a specific look and idea of how the finished product would turn out. But along the way, this idea evolved into something else entirely. My inspiration was a theme that is near and dear to my heart, Star Wars. I imagined a golden C-3PO-like lady droid in a bright Cloud City type environment. In this video, I'll share a few photos with you and I'll tell you how my initial idea evolved to those photos during the process, from styling to studio setup to editing. And then I'll tell you how you can see more from the shoot. I started with the costume. I didn't want to purchase a C-3PO costume and try to exactly emulate him. I wanted a less literal interpretation, a little more humanoid than robot. So I went with this gold bodysuit and lots of gold makeup and gold-colored hairspray. This was the easy part though. Posing was a little bit interesting with the reflective bodysuit. I had to keep an eye on how I was angled. I also tried to stick with mostly neutral expressions. I was actually thinking, she's a robot, right? Or is she? Next, the environment. Like I said before, the bright Cloud City was my inspiration. However, as I was putting this plan into action, I realized that making a darker, Death Star-esque environment would be really cool looking with the reflective gold that I was wearing. Plus, I was cutting holes in my gray backdrop to create the windows behind me here, and I did it freehand. They're not perfect. The darkness helped mask that imperfection. And in addition to that, we used a shallow depth of field so that the edges are nice and fuzzy back there. But there is one last thing. When we took the first few photos, we realized that the images still looked kind of flat. So to get more dimension back there, we angled the backdrop. It meant a visually narrower backdrop to work with, but it was worth it because that made a huge difference in creating an environment rather than just a backdrop. Then I got into editing the photos. Again, the idea evolved. I initially wanted pretty true-to-life colors. I figured I would do my normal process of picking up the contrast a bit, and then maybe amp up the golds. But I ended up playing around with filters and landed on an old filter that I had created for another shoot. It played up the golds in a way that I hadn't expected. And then it kind of softened the gold of my bodysuit and also added that soft gold elsewhere. And I immediately thought of the sci-fi films that predated Star Wars. And it really fit in with the idea of the golden fembot of the future idea that I had. So I included a photo and its technical settings at SnapChick.com. You can get to it from the link in the description of the video below. And VIPs, log in when you're there to see the entire gallery of images with lots of photos and even some alternative editing styles. Plus, you'll see another video that I shot behind the scenes of the shoot and after the shoot when I was editing the images. Creating these photos was fun. In the end, it wasn't exactly how I had initially envisioned it, but I remained open to how the idea was evolving, how I could get the best results with the materials that I had, and the photos took on a life of their own, and I'm happy with the results. So, you know I always want to know about you guys. Have you ever done a Star Wars themed shoot? Or has there been a time when you envisioned one thing and then ended up with something else, but then you were okay with it? Let me know in the comments below.